Okay, I got my red shirt on. I got the red hair going. We're going to do a hot take today, and we're going to talk about intelligence and why intelligence isn't enough anymore. And if you were to say, Catherine, like, what is your number one skill? What are you best at? I'd say I'm smart. Like, I don't really have a whole lot of skills. I don't have, some great soccer advantage. I've got a son who's a great soccer player and I love to sing, but I'm not a great singer. I have some talents in many different areas, but the one thing, defining thing I've always felt like I had to offer is intelligence. And even intelligence now has changed. And this is why I want to talk about why it's not enough anymore. So if you were to go back to, 17-year-old Catherine going into Cal State Long Beach, which is where I did my undergrad, my MBA, and it's now where I teach as an adjunct professor, I'd say that intelligence is defined totally different than how I would define it today. I would have defined it as IQ and I would have defined it as credentials. And I would have talked about how I wanted to get an MBA and how all of these could, conditioning and credentialing was going to help me to, step up my game. And all of that has changed and shifted because of AI. Think about it this way, and this is actually what Jensen Huang says, and he's the CEO of NVIDIA. He talks about, you normally think of intelligence as being somebody who is a software developer. Bill Gates is like the number one name and face I picture when I think of intelligence, right? And absolutely, the man is a genius. But AI has replaced as the number one thing, the very first thing it replaced is computer programming. So the definition of intelligence has to change. It's no longer about how technically astute you are or your intellectual ability to understand or comprehend anything. It's about judgment now. So in this new world where execution is so easy and so simple because AI can do, well, basically anything, it's how can you guide decisions? How can you look around the corner? And I always give this example when I've defined myself in the past for people as a growth marketer. I always bring forward the fact that I'm a canary in a coal mine. And I hope that gives you a real visceral visual image as it does for me. I picture a tiny little bird in a really dirty coal mine. And the purpose of the canary in the coal mine was to be able to tell coal miners when there was a problem, right? That bird would want to leave. And that would indicate, hey, this is no longer a safe environment for us. We need to get out because there's going to be a collapse. Animals are always one of the first people that sense when something is wrong. So any of you who've studied HSPs or highly sensitive people know that there are people who do that too. It's about 20% of the population is what the data says. And these are people that were kind of genetically built to be able to pick up on signals and problems and issues faster. And there's so much information out there that you can get on HSPs, but that is what I think we're meaning when we say a canary in a coal mine. And there's a definitive person and personality, I'm one of them, that has that, hey, here's a heads up, there's a problem happening. Now, here's what's interesting. That position inside of an organization can either be nurtured or it can be killed. Many organizations fear people that share, hey, there's a problem, there's an issue, because they're worried about politically what it means for the environment. And it's sometimes why I think people who have that background maybe do better when they're not in a typical corporate environment, because what their skill set is being able to feel that the room is off, sensing when the mood has changed, understanding people, not just data, but being able to pull in data. That's where you feel and see and experience real intelligence. It comes from pattern recognition and it's built over time. It comes from grit, it comes from experience, it comes from data, but it also comes from an innate skill set that isn't found in everybody, and that's okay. It's really cool to have, scarce skill sets, and there's so many out there that are unique and interesting. And this is one that I feel like is really helpful as you start thinking about, how do I want to grow this year and what do I want to do, and what does this kind of intelligence mean to me as a business owner or a chief marketing officer or a chief revenue officer, somebody who's been tapped with growing an organization. I want you to try and tap into what you likely have, which is an innate ability to see where problems are coming and how they're coming. And I bet if you've gotten this far in your career, you have that ability. Traditional intelligence measures are narrow. They're looking at speed and precision and having the right answers. And those things are important. And 17-year-old me would have said that that was like the definition of success. But now Real growth happens in these scary moments when other people are too afraid to act. I want you to think back to 2020, and I did a episode on this recently where I talked about some of the decisions I made during that difficult time frame, and I know all of us made difficult decisions during that time frame. What was the one thing that was common amongst all of us? Ambiguity. We didn't know what the heck was going to happen, right? That's where real leadership happens. We had incomplete data. We had all of these constraints in our daily lives, and we were making decisions by gut instinct and feel. That's something that AI will never replace. And so when you think about intelligence, and here's what we know, right? There's so much research out there on this. Again, you can search this on your own. Emotional intelligence and grit are actually the number one success factors. It isn't and never was about IQ. So I want you to think about that for a minute as you think about AI. Is there really something for you to be scared about? Maybe. But there's also a massive opportunity because the real world growth isn't a math problem, it's a judgment problem. And AI doesn't have a soul, but you do. So I want you to think back to the SATs. This is a really great example to me. And it's one that the CEO of NVIDIA, who I mentioned earlier, he actually brought forward. So picture this, I'm getting ready to go into college, and I've waited my whole life for this. I knew I wanted an MBA at 17 years old. I love to learn. I cannot get enough information in my life. And I'm about to take the SATs, and I don't really study for them. So maybe that's part of the problem. But I went ahead and took them, and I had a tale of two cities when I got my results back. I just suck at math. It's not my thing. And it doesn't need to be. We have calculators and AI for that. And there's other people who are so much smarter than me that I can partner with to get, real good math done. But what was interesting, the piece that was really, really strong was my reading comprehension and understanding, and my ability to listen deeply and understand and empathize. And that has really been what has built this business for me, is understanding what people are saying when they're not saying it, learning how to let people empty their cup of expectations and requirements and what they think they want and need, so that I can help fill it and show them what real growth looks like. Because all of us come in with existing expectations. And if you're trying to sell someone on why they need to grow or what that looks like, they're going to have thoughts and expectations on their own. You're not going to change their mind. Influence does not come from overfilling someone's cup when they already are this full with what they believe is the right thing to do. It comes from listening. And it comes from letting them tell you what they believe and why they believe it, understanding where they're coming from, and reinforcing what is right and showing them a new way when it's an opportunity to do that. So to me, when I think about intelligence and what it looks like now in the future with AI behind us and by our side, it looks like data, analysis, life experience, wisdom, being able to sense people, grit. This is a huge one. Grit is the most important skill I really think that you can teach. And I don't know that I have the answers on it yet. I'm still trying to teach it to my kids, but grit is a huge one. And then people like to say common sense. I don't, because I don't think common sense is actually common, but the ability to think something through in terms of how would it impact me. So I don't so much focus on common sense as I focus on empathy, trying to understand and meet somebody where they're at, and not being afraid to be real and authentic. My husband says that I don't wear my heart on my sleeve. I wear it as a billboard over the 405 freeway. And so for those of you who are based here in Southern California, you understand the analogy. It is a huge, huge freeway with a lot of people stopped all the time because of traffic. And I'm not scared. I'm not scared to wear my heart on my sleeve. I'm not scared to have it as a billboard on the 405 freeway, because I think it's what makes me different and what makes me good at what I'm doing and what allows me to help others grow. So I want you to do the same for yourself. I want you to think about what skill sets are you bringing to the business that you have as a leader and that are built on this new definition of intelligence. It is not something that you have to be scared of so much in terms of AI. It's an opportunity for you to lean into the things that make you uniquely human. And that's going to be the difference maker as we move forward. And actually, it should excite you, because if you have big weaknesses If you suck at graphics like I do, if you're not the best math person like me, then sweet, go ahead and give it to AI and allow AI to do that for you. But don't give over your judgment. Don't give over your trust. Don't give over your authenticity. Don't give over what uniquely makes you you and how you can sense judgment, truth, and decision making under really difficult circumstances, because that is not replaceable by AI. So I want you to think about who actually owns the judgment inside of your organization. That's what you want to be focused on when the playbook stops and it doesn't work anymore. That's exactly what we've seen since 2020. What used to work doesn't work anymore. And in this new era of things that bring up excitement and opportunity, but also a little bit of fear, that's where you have to recreate the playbook. And that's where this new form of intelligence, which is about sensing and understanding and coming forward with grit and honesty and an interest in understanding and seeing where the opportunities lie in front of you, that's where real growth is built. And that's what growth actually is all about. I'm here to help you anytime you need. Have a great day.